Hi guys, so this part is really important task of your activity. You're going to be calculating the cost of the chariot that you built. Now we know mine is pretty cruddy looking and doesn't actually work, but it'll at least work to help me make my point here. So here's what you need to be doing for this part. You're going to use your cost per part list for your connects. I wrote what color these typically are so that you have a good idea, but you can use different strategies to figure out what piece it is. So we're going to go through, and what I recommend is ignore this for right now and just go right to your chariot and start with something on the ends. So I see these little tan pieces here, these little tan stoppers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and count these. You could, of course, count each individual one, but I also know that my design is pretty symmetrical. So what I have on one side, I also have on the other. So I'm going to sort of cut this in half and just look at one side. And so I see 2, 4, and then I see a 5th one here on this side. So if I know 5 are on this side, I know 5 times 2, I know I have 10 of those. So on my sheet, I'm going to go ahead and record times 10 equals. And then I'm going to move my next piece. So I see these orange connectors. So I have 1, 2 on this side, doubled. So I have 4 of those. So that's times 4 equals. And now next thing that catches my attention are these gray rods that are really long. So I have 2 of these long gray rods, and I have 1 that is going across the back. So I have 3 of those total. So I'm going to go to here, and I see gray here. So times 3, and then I'm going to go to my next piece, which are these yellow connectors. So again, I see I have 2 of those. So times 2, and so on. So you just want to make sure that you don't miss any of the pieces. Now that I'm done counting up all my pieces and writing the multiplier next to it, creating my equation, I'm going to go ahead and go to my chariot cost sheet. So you can see it says use this area to show the part and the multiplication you use to calculate the cost of each connects part used. So I'm going to put my name on here, of course, and then this is where I record the part number. So I'll actually go in order with the parts that I use. So part number 1, so I'll just put a 1 there, and I have my actual work now. So 1 67 hundredths times 10. Okay. Now, if it's a multiple of 10, I don't mind if you use a strategy. Just record on the bottom that you used like a multiply by 10 strategy to solve that. And then you'll want to go ahead and check it on your calculator and actually check off that you did it correctly. So every single time you do it on here, you need to check it with your calculator and make sure that you are accurate. So of course, that I know anything multiplied by 10 is just going to put an additional 0 on the end. However, when we're working with decimals, that's just a little bit different. So we know that what that does is it actually moves the decimal point, and so it moves at one location. So my answer ends up being 16.7. So I'm going to go ahead and actually solve this out. So 0 times 7 is 0, and 0, 0, all the way along. And then we have slide slash 0, and 1 times 7 is 7, 1 times 6 is 6, and 1 times 1 is 1. And then we're going to go ahead and count how many decimal places, 1, 2, and make sure that our decimal is where it needs to be. Add them at the end, so we have 0, 7, 6, and 1. And so you can see that it worked out correctly anyway. All right, so you're going to solve each part multiplication and check it with your calculator, and then also go back to your part sheet and $16.70 and officially go ahead and write it in as your official cost. So you have a couple different things that need to happen in order to check your work. So just to go through that one more time, your expectation is record the part number, set up your multiplication problem, 1 and 54, 1.54, and times 4. Do the disco multiplication and get your answer. Check it with the calculator, check it off, and also record it back on your parts sheet. So those are the steps that you need to go through for all of your parts, and that's something that I'll check off on when you're done. Just make sure you've gone through all that, and you should be able to enter the Chariot races.